Well, I'll tell you how I started on this sort of journey, and that is, of course, I was a chiropractor, and I'd done the training, and I really didn't feel that I knew too much. I mean, you've done years of training, but there was so much in the body that sort of confused me. And when I used to speak to principals at the college, they'd say, send them to their GP, and I thought, well, they'd come to me because the GP didn't have an answer, and now I'm saying, go back and see the GP. So I had a thought, and there was a man I knew very well that treated me very often, and my family. And he was a naturopath, and he was actually the first naturopath in Britain to be trained by Leaf, who came over from America. So I gave him a ring and I said, any chance of you just giving me a pointer or two? Because I'm not too clear on one or two things in the body and different links and situations. So he said, yeah, come round. So I went round there on this Wednesday evening, about 7 o'clock after clinic. And he said, right, I was going to write a book. He said, but I'd rather have a face. So what I'll do is I'll talk to you and then you can learn all the stuff. So I said, okay. So I came the next week with my notepad, pen. And he said, no notes. He's Scottish. I said, what? He said, no notes. He said, Glenn. I said, but we always take notes. No notes. So I had 3 years of going around every Wednesday and no notes. But I finally learned it. It took ages. And what he taught me primarily is the body is simple and it's logical. If you complicate it, it doesn't appreciate that at all. And everything seems to be getting more and more complicated. And science is sort of, well, it's a complicated issue all the time, isn't it? And you read scientific papers and at the end it says something like discuss. So you read all that and you think, oh, that's it then. No, it's not. That's just a discussion paper. And so it goes on. Whereas the way I was taught by John was that you just look for very simple things. And you look at the body in a logical way and you approach it logically. And you take into account various things like typology, blood pressure, etc. The same as local GP might. But that was how I sort of started changing my tact. Then what happened was I met several other people that were doing very clever stuff, kinesiology, psychotherapy, those sort of things. And then I, being an adventurous sort of person, I started to combine them with chiropractic. And then I found you could get different results, and it went on until in the end I found that by finding spinal segments that were out of line, and by operating on specific segments you could alter organs in the body. And primarily, you could do something called the thymus, which is just down here below the notch, the hard bone, the manubrium, and that is where the thymus resides. And the thymus is really central to all of the immune responses. And what I've found recently, go sort of jumping 20 years, is that there is one at least virus which quite often resides in the thymus. And what happens then is it's dormant. It doesn't give any sort of symptoms at all. But the reason it doesn't is because the immune system has got it and locked it up. But that means now the immune system doesn't work the way it was designed to work for in the first place. So then you get more lupus, more PMR, more allergies in particular, because of this one feature. And the interesting thing is I found how it gets there. And the way it gets there is through vaccinations. Now I knew vaccinations were implicated, but I thought it was the vaccine itself. But it doesn't seem to be. What it seems to be is that when you inject into the body directly, the immune system goes crazy. It's trying to sort everything out because it's not the normal way that we build up our defences. So what happens then is the immune system's busy. So this virus, usually the Coxsackie virus, goes, that's handy, bring it straight in. It's in the body, it resides in the thymus, the body then recognises it, locks that up, and now we've got an immune system that is never going to work exactly the way it was designed to in the first place. Now with some people, they get away with anything. It doesn't seem to matter what they do, they just walk through life, they can drink, smoke, stay up late, not exercise, and there they are at 97 saying, I've never had a glass of water in my life. And I don't blame them. Anyway, what happened then was, through treating people for allergies, there was one particular lady that I treated. She was multi-allergic, she'd lost a lot of weight, she was very ill, and it was successful, which was lovely. But it was about 18 months later she came to see me again, and I thought, that's a shame, her allergies have come back. But actually what had happened was she was getting serum and blood weeping out of the nipple on her left breast. And her name was Anne. I think I mentioned in the book actually. And Anne, she wasn't panicking, but she knew a lot more about it than I did, because she was practice nurse at the Hull Nurses Training College. And also her mother had died of the disease. She just lost a cousin at the age of 29 to breast cancer. So obviously she was very concerned. She just said to me, if I can avoid it, I don't want to go through the conventional treatment, because I saw my mum go through it. The disease got her in the end anyway, and it was terrible, miserable business. Anything I can do. And I literally came up with a program there and then. I did diet, hot and cold water, and diaphragmatic breathing. And there are a few things now I realise why it works so well. Things that I didn't know then, like when you raise the temperature to 41 degrees, cancer cells die. Normal cells are quite happy. I didn't know that, but the hot water is the first thing. But my thinking was to flood the area with blood. And the blood, in a more alkaline body, holds more oxygen. And oxygen is great for normal cells, sewage really, to cancer cells. So that much I understood. I knew about alkaline forming diets, so I worked one of those out there and then. And Anne did that, and she got referred to the breast clinic from her GP, because she'd seen me before, saw her GP. And I think it was 2.5, 3 weeks. And when she got there, they just said, I don't know why you're here. And gone, completely. And also, there's been quite a few people that have done that now. And one of them was my sister-in-law, who was in remission, and she had lumps 2 or 3 come up in, I think it was her left breast as well. And my wife said to her, why don't you do David's program? And she said, no point, is there? So she said, well, what have you got to lose? Anyway, she did it for 2.5, 3 weeks, and when she got there for the needle biopsy, they said to her, I'm so sorry, we can't do it, there's nothing there. Gone. And I spoke to her, and she said, well, it can't, can it? Not 2.5 weeks. And I said, well, it has. And she said, yeah, but I didn't do it properly because I didn't think you knew anything. So she didn't even do it properly. It was encouraging. And there have been an awful lot of women. There was one lady, she was up for a double mastectomy. And she was the mother-in-law of one of the girls I was training. And she said to me when she came to see me, she said, look, I don't care. I don't mind a double mastectomy, it doesn't bother me. And I said to her, well, how about this? How about when you get to see the surgeon, you've got the healthiest breast he's ever seen to operate on. So you're going to be more successful and you're going to respond better to the anaesthetic, because you can't just have a healthy breast, you have to have a healthy body, obviously. Anyway, she did it, and when she went for the op and the pre-op and all that stuff, they said, well, it must have been a misdiagnosis because you haven't got it. But it wasn't a misdiagnosis, of course. So there are some of the success stories. And the background to it, why it works so well, is that if you make a body more alkaline, well, of course, you can't make a body totally alkaline. That would be ridiculous. You'd have alkalosis. But if you move more, I mean, for example, if you've got 2 columns of food, these one acid up, these ones alkaline up. If you go 10% less on that one, 10% more on that one, you've got a 20% swing. And that's very significant, and it's not difficult. Then you come to diaphragmatic breathing. Well, why does it work so well? Not just for things like, you know, breast health or various other areas of the body, not just for that. And the reason is we're breathing diaphragmatically. Now the diaphragm is sort of bell-shaped, here like so. Underneath here we've got the liver, we've got the pancreas, we've got the spleen, and well, various other organs, you know. But I mean those specifically. As it works, you see, we've got this bell like this, and we've got the liver, say, yeah, which always gets sort of bunged up. So we've got the liver, and it massages the liver. So it actually naturally detoxes the liver instead of all that violent stuff, which I really don't agree with. But I mean, that's each to their own, but I don't agree with that at all. I don't think anything violent should be done to the body except in really extreme circumstances. But when I hear people saying, yeah, I've done a liver detox, or I felt ill, well, you shouldn't. You should feel bloody marvellous, you know. It's crazy. But that's the first thing, so you get a massage liver. The second thing is, because you're breathing out carbon dioxide, you're lowering carbonic acid in the bloodstream, which is making it more alkaline. That takes the pressure off the kidneys, because the kidney's job is to put out uric acid. And the urea that's being made from the liver, allowing this to happen, is now better because you're massaging the liver. So it's a whole thing, you know. Everything is working in your favour, and all you're doing is breathing. It's completely free. I mean, when people say to me, I forgot to do my breathing, I thought, well, you should have died then, you know, you must have been breathing. But I know what they mean. And it's always a matter of remembering these things. Another thing I've found, which is hugely powerful, nothing to do with really what we're talking about today, but it can be applied to anything, is a method of talking to the body, just connect and talk to the body. And I know someone who does that. He's 88. He's cut down now, but he was doing 100 cigarettes a day. He's doing 60 now, but he still drinks a bottle of whiskey. It's fine. And they rushed him off to the doctor. Well, actually, they tricked him into seeing the doctor, got the doctor around the house, and the doctor said, well, they're going to have a look at you as well, and listen to his chest. He said, I think we would have a blood test, and I think you better come in for an x-ray. And they said, you're clear. Can't understand it, 100% clear. And it's only because he says, thank you, buddy, I know I don't treat you very well, thank you for keep going, I'll try and pay you back when I can. And he assures me that's what he does. And he certainly doesn't do anything else healthy. So I'm assuming it has an effect. It's worth a try, it doesn't cost anything. Do you know, I mean, all these things, I mean, people that are on these diets, like the lady that's going to have a double mastectomy, that was 5 or 6 years ago. And I saw her daughter-in-law last year, and she said, oh, Mum's diabetes went as well, and she loves the diet, because it's, as you know, it's a 7-day diet, but the 7th day is do as you like. And I did that for emotional reasons, because if someone's on a constrictive diet all the time, and have nothing to look forward to, I don't think the food does you much good, because you don't want to, you know, don't want to eat it. But if you know, yeah, I can have my roast on Sunday with fish and chips or whatever, then that's fine. And you can also program it so that if you go around someone's house and go out for a meal, that's a day when you please yourself. But she doesn't even do a please yourself day, because she likes it so much. Yeah, I know. Well, all right, yeah. I can see the look on your face. Yeah. Well, that's the way she sort of progresses. Now, there's several other things that you can add into this, and they're things that I've come across by. See, my intention when I wrote the book was that people would do it so that they didn't have a breast issue. I work on the basis, just simple, logical. If something's healthy, it can't be unhealthy at the same time, can it? It just can't be. Now, I have spoken to oncologists who disagree with me. And say, no, I see perfectly healthy people with breast cancer. No, you don't. Of course I'm not perfectly healthy, don't be ridiculous. But there's a whole load of stuff here to take on. And the first one is Swedish bitters, and I've come across 2 women who claim to have successfully treated their cancer just by taking Swedish bitters. One with bowel cancer and the other one with cancer of the cervix. And I have to admit, I do take it myself, I quite like it. I know some people say it's horrible taste, I don't find it horrible at all. Then I always...
Where would you buy it?
Get it online. Yeah, it's easy. Yeah. Yeah, it's easy to get it online.
How much do you take a day?
Pardon?
How much do you take? A spoonful or?
Yeah.
Drops or?
Well, I'm usually in a rush, I just go like that. That's when I remember, of course. Another really good one, which is really supportive of the immune system, is cumin. And that's been, well, you probably know years, but it's been used in Ayurveda medicine for centuries, thousands of years. But the one I didn't know about, that I've just come across, is black cumin, which is a different family. It's Nigella sativa. And it's said to be a powerful healer, so powerful it's said to break down the cell walls of cancer cells. But I haven't got any evidence for that. But it can't do much harm anyway. And the other one, of course, now they use this in Germany a lot, and that's mistletoe. And if you think about it, if you think about how herbs work and how things work and the science nature gives you, mistletoe itself is separate to the tree, like cancer is separate to the body. And they're pretty intelligent. In Germany, in Bavaria, there are several clinics, and they use a very different protocol. And in the first place, what they do is to bring the body's temperature up to 41 degrees. Because then, as we've said, cancer cells die, normal cells are fine. They also increase the oxygen level in the body. And then what they do is they give the person an injection of insulin, which makes them go hypoglycemic. So now the cancer cells are screaming out for glucose. So what they do then is they put in a 5% mix of chemotherapy, or 10%, which the cancer cells grab. And I love that. So they die, they get successfully treated. The normal cells don't get a look in, and people don't get the nauseous, don't lose their hair. It's a highly intelligent sort of approach. I think it's brilliant. And the other thing they do is to inject mistletoe just under the skin. And the reason they do it in that way is because that's how mistletoe gets introduced to the tree, because birds wipe their beaks and the seed comes out and mistletoe grows. So on that theory, they use it in that way. I mean, I've got loads of people that take it, but I use a tincture. I mean, just take a tincture of mistletoe. How much good it does on its own, I'm really not sure. But certainly it doesn't do any harm. So it's quite a useful way of sort of supporting the body, and it's quite specific in its sort of usage. Apart from that, oh yeah, that's a good one. Met two women who claimed to have used this, and it's the golden castor oil, good old-fashioned castor oil. You don't take it internally, you put it on topically, and apparently when you put it on the skin, it increases the activity of white cells. One woman claimed to me that, not cured, but hugely reduced her tumours in the breast, and the other one said emphatically got rid of her bowel cancer. So, and that's all she did. And I mean, the girl who took Swedish bitters for a cancer cervix, she didn't even give up drinking and smoking. In fact, she didn't do anything apart from take Swedish bitters. I'm not recommending it. I'm just saying. So there's a sort of approach that I like. I like it simple. I focus on normal cells, and I try and ignore cancer cells completely. I never talk about that, because there are too many people talking about that, and they're all focusing on it. And in actual fact, you lose your identity. You're either stage 1, 2, 3, 4 cancer, that's you. Yeah, not Mrs. Smith anymore, you're stage 3. And it's mine, not yours. And I say what happens to it. And don't you dare do anything yourself. It's outrageous. Must you? And do you know what? The top 4 cancers are lung, breast, prostate, and I don't think it's brain.
Bowel.
Did I not say bowel? That's it then. That's top 4. This is an American figure. Each one, it's a weird way of looking at it, but this is a financial analyst report I read. Each one is worth to the cancer industry $350,000. So it's big business. They're also predicting that 1 in 8 people in America at the moment fall prey to cancer of the breast. They think that's going to go to 1 in 6 by something like 2025, something like that. They're very confident in that. And I think, well, if you're confident it's going to increase by that much, you must know what's causing it. And if you know what's causing it, shouldn't you tell us? It's crazy, isn't it? So what they're doing in America in particular is they're scaling up really. So they'll be training more oncologists, surgeons, etc., nurses, and aftercare people. So the whole thing's expanding, more buildings, more equipment, more everything, yeah? Which makes me think, if they're scaling up to that, if they're confident it's going to happen, then can they afford a cure? Can they? $350,000 a person? If suddenly someone says, oh, you're cured. Oh my God. So we've got no work for the surgeons, all the nurses, all the buildings are empty, all the equipment. Don't need any of it. It's like turkeys voting for Christmas, isn't it, really? Think about it. I know it's a bit of a mean-spirited way of looking at the occupation of these people, but I can't help thinking that it's quite possible that at the back of their mind, we'd like something that's a bit more successful. I mean, after all, chemo, when they're saying now that chemo is 2% cure rate. Now, I know over 5 years you've got a success rate, which may be, I don't know, maybe 40%, which is in your brain, that's great. But actually the cure rate is like 2%. And when you think of the damage it does to the body, that is not a good record, it's not a good option, is it? Not really. Now, I went to a lecture, and it was very good, I have to say that, at the Royal Society of Medicine. Believe it or not, they made me a fellow. Anyway, fools. Anyway, so there I was, and they had this guy, he's Japanese, and he's obviously extremely clever and intuitive, and he's worked out this system of doing a biopsy, which is actually a vacuum. So it has a hollow needle and a little vacuum at the end. So instead of a normal needle biopsy that runs the risk of spreading the disease, it goes in and they go doof, and it takes out maybe 2 centimetres of tissue for the, for them to do a really in-depth biopsy, which is terrific. There is a problem with it, as he pointed out. I haven't perfected it, and the major problem is that occasionally it sucks out the whole tumour, including the node, so there's nothing left. And I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to do it. And the oncologist said, well, never mind. There's still plenty more for me. Yeah, that's really crazy. And then the oncologist gave us a lovely talk, and it was very clever, and how she's worked this whole thing out. She's using chemo as an adjuvant. But unfortunately, what it means is sometimes it's a complete cure and you don't need a surgeon. So of course you've got to say sorry to the surgeon, because now he hasn't got a job. And then that surgeon has worked out a new method of doing lumpectomies and things like that, which means that the nipple's retained. It doesn't need to be stenciled on. So now there's no work for the plastic surgeon, so he apologises to him. And I thought, this is mad. And then afterwards, I was looking for the little boys' room with this old doctor, who must have been 100. And he said to me, did you enjoy it? And I said, oh yeah, I really did. He said, oh good, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I said, there's just one thing, it seems to me that the whole emphasis of everything here is on disease, on the problem, on cancer. He said, well, that's our job. I said, yeah, but what you focus on is what you get. And he said, absolutely. I said, well, shouldn't you be focusing on health? And he just stood there looking at me. I don't think he'd ever thought of that 100 years or whatever. He really hadn't. And it's obvious, isn't it? I mean, all you've got to do is think about health. Everything else is secondary, isn't it? But I mean, they don't think about that at all, it would seem to me. So something like this is useful, because whatever else anybody's doing, add this in. Do it. If you're going for an operation, nice to go with the healthiest breast you can possibly go with, and the healthiest body. Don't you think? So that's my attitude, that's what I do. And there's only one other thing that I do, which actually is specific to tumours. And that is it's very interesting actually, because you know the helix, the DNA? And at the bottom you have things, it's like the end of a shoelace, it's called a telomere. Now, the telomere is, I'm not quite sure why it's there actually, but it's to do with cell division. So every time a cell divides, you lose a little bit of the telomere. So one day, you haven't got any telomere left, and that's extreme old age, you're finished. Which is thought to be between 130 and 150 years of age, because nobody gets there, because we don't live in a way that allows us to. Now, cancer cells can't age, so that when they divide, they lose a bit of the telomere. But then they've got this magic ingredient, telomerase. And telomerase rebuilds the telomere. So they're always juvenile, they're always reckless teenagers, just reckless, out to do damage. And they can do it forever because they have telomerase. So one of the things I try and do is I work on using a technique that I use, CKT, using chirokinetic therapy. I have a conversation with the body and make it realise that telomerase shouldn't be anywhere in the body except in the sex cells. And it has to be there because otherwise we'll have 35-year-old children. See what I mean? When they're born. Yeah, I know, it's a bit of a shock. Especially if you're only 20. But yeah, so that's what I try and do. I have been successful on occasions. There was one guy I treated and he had a mesothelioma, which is asbestosis. And they just said to him, sorry, there's no decent treatment. And I like that terminology as well, don't you? No decent treatment. They've got a lot of indecent treatments. Anyway, he was pretty ill. He came from Taunton. And that hill that goes down to the car park, he had to stop 2 or 3 times coming up there. And every fortnight or so he was going in and they were draining off a litre of fluid, that was being produced by the tumours. And I didn't know, I said to him, I don't treat cancer, but let's try this telomerase thing. So I tried it, and tumour activity stopped just like that. It didn't go, it just stopped, no fluid. He could walk up the hill. He went for his 25th anniversary, took his 25-year award from a company he worked at, and for 6 months he was normal. But then, I thought, well, I've cracked it, it's fantastic. I didn't realise the cancer's working it out, got to get this stuff back on, which he did. And so what I should have done is said, come back and I'll give you another treatment, but I didn't. Just thought, well, it's all stopped, so fine, let him get on with his life. But it came back, and then, as usual with asbestosis, there's nothing much you can do. There is no treatment. Some people do get treated, but they're usually extremely rich, and so it's just too much of a temptation to give them an indecent treatment. So if you can get 100 grand off someone, I'm sorry I look at it like that, but I've just seen it. There was a guy, I saw him in London, he had mesothelioma. If I told you his name, he's a famous pop guy. And he said, well, I've never come across asbestosis playing a guitar. And I said to him, well, I think it's the Salk vaccine that caused this. And he said, how are you spelling it? So I said, Jonas Salk, I say, okay. The polio vaccine used back in the 50s. And he said to me, well, you're spot on. He said, because my mate is the major surgeon general in America, and he told me it's Salk vaccine. I said, well, no. They always deny it, but it's well known. And it causes the increase in lung cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, mesothelioma, goodness knows how many other things. And it's because of the virus, it's a simian virus, the SV40 virus, which was transferred from, I think it was chimpanzees, or it may have been from green monkeys, anyway, whatever it was, this virus came into the human chain through the vaccine. And that's definitely, and the sad thing is, it's still around, it's still in some vaccines, which is absolutely crazy. And there have been 60 studies in 30, at least 60 now, more than that, in the top 30 centres like Cambridge and Oxford and places in America, all over the world, and all have said the same thing, that the SV40 virus is in all these cancers. And the manufacturer has said you're all cross-contaminating your samples. Doesn't make you happy, does it? Thinking about stuff like that. It doesn't make me happy. I don't like finding out about it, but that's the way it is. And I mean, it's just sort of obvious how these things, they just get peddled into us, you know. I mean, it's all this stuff, and I mean, flu jabs. I hope nobody has a flu jab. They're a nightmare. But they don't even know what the flu virus is. They just guess, well, last year it was this, so we'll bump a bit of that in. And you've got to have a flu jab. Loads of people, I talked to her for a fortnight, and they say, but not as bad if you had the flu. Well, who knows? But it's crazy, I think. But there you go. It's not logical to me to do that to the human body and expect it to thrive. And that there was a study in America, and one of the leading virologists, I don't think he's a leading virologist anymore because you're not allowed to do this, but he pointed out that people that had 5 or more flu jabs in a 10-year period were 7 times more likely to get Alzheimer's because of the aluminium in the mix. And of course it goes straight to the lungs and brain. So you can get away with a couple, maybe 3, 5, and maybe you're going to get dementia or something. So there you go. Well, I'll throw it over to questions because I can't remember what I said.
When you said that in America, and it will be here as well, that the rate of breast cancer will go up, a lot of that is because we are all living longer.
Yes, I'm sure you're right.
So, therefore, yeah. I rest my case. That's right.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Anne's cousin was 29. My other sister-in-law had it when she was in her early 40s, died when she was 49.
Yeah, I mean, yes. I do understand.
I think that's
absolutely terrible.
Yeah,
I also think we have to think about we can't help our parents because we can't. But sometimes, but you can't choose your parents or your parentage.
No.
And therefore, I think that some people, it does seem to go through families.
Yes, it does.
That's...
Yeah, I know, but this is, to a large degree, this is a cop-out. I mean, if you go back about 20 years, they were saying that the increase in peanut allergies, for example, was genetic. Until it went up 400% in 3 years.
Mm.
And then they said, well, it's not genetic. Well, it's not. Of course not. I mean, if you go back 30, 35 years, or maybe 40 years now, that was the first ever recorded case of a latex allergy. And it was amazing. They could write a paper on that, fabulous. Now, it's 1 in 4 in the health service have to have hypoallergenic dogs. It's not genetic. It's not because people are getting older. It's to do with the immune system. And so are all the other things. There's more lupus. There's more PMR. So, and it's not necessarily old people who've got it. In fact, most of the people I see are older, depending on what you call age. You know? And what you consider to be people living longer. A lot of people aren't living at all because they're dying earlier. And they're also living with lots of disabilities, you know. The increase in allergies is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. In fact, when my friends live in America, they call it Allergy Valley. I mean, it's that bad. And when they take the grandson to the allergy clinic, they're astounded by the amount of people there. And then they get to see, it's a different subject, isn't it? But they get to see an allergy specialist. And I thought, what do allergy specialists specialise in? Well, they specialise in not treating allergies, because they can't. What they do is somebody goes along, they've waited 3 or 4 months for the appointment, and they test them and they say, yes, you're allergic to peanuts, and they say, oh no. They say, well, you mustn't eat them. I don't. And you must carry an EpiPen. Well, I carry 2. Right, off you go. Oh, thank you. That's fantastic. Worth waiting 4 or 5 months for. And that is all that is on offer. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, for sure, A&E is brilliant. Someone's in acute attack, fantastic. Carrying an epinephrine device, fabulous. But none of it's good. it's all after the problem. It's just like a greyhound chasing a rabbit. Only this time the rabbit always gets away. So, I just don't think anybody's looking at health in a proper way in this country, or in the Western world at all. It doesn't seem it to me. In actual fact, I don't think they know what health is. I mean, when the Bob-style guy, when I said to him, look, this is the diet I need to do. And his wife said, well, why didn't they tell us that at the master? I said, I don't know. I can't answer for that. And she said, well, what they said was, build him up, buy him McDonald's on the way home and give him plenty of chocolate. That was the advice from the master. True, it's from the nurses, but absolutely extraordinary. So there you go, I love it, man. So I don't know if anybody wants to ask me anything else.
You mentioned the book.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what that is?
Oh, it's just the Every Woman's Guide to Vital Breast Health that I wrote. It's got a diet in there, deep breathing. It hasn't got these bits in there, so I thought I'd print that out if you want to know about stuff like that. There's obviously loads more stuff out there. I mean, people that can afford it. I mean, probably if they, these clinics in Germany, I'm not sure what the success rate is, but I've heard it's many times more successful in this country. So I won't exaggerate it, but I know it's hugely more. It's not just twice as good. You know, it's like 5 or 6 times more effective. Not only that, people aren't going there with a lot of dread and coming out really ill. They're going for a day out, a nice day out. They get warmed up, they get a shot of insulin that makes them go a bit weird, but then so on and so forth. So it's not heavy stuff, you know, and it's not challenging the body. It's very intelligent. And there's one guy, Dr. Hamer, and he lost his son to a brain tumour. And he thought, well, with all my knowledge, I couldn't help my son. What's going on here? So he decided to go back through the whole history of the thing. And what he found was, and he found it in lots of brain scans of other people, he found these concentric circles, this pattern in the brain. So he went to Siemens that make the machines, and he said, what is it? And they said, we don't know, ignore it. That's our advice to everyone, just ignore it. It's something, an aberration in the equipment, we can't correct it. He said, well, this guy here, he said, if he agrees, can we do another one? But this time just turn the equipment round, which they did, and the pattern stayed in the same place. So he thought, oh, and he researched it. He gives lectures now, and people will give him a scan, which are put up on a light box, and he'll say, kidney cancer, brain cancer, lung cancer, just from the pattern in the brain. So if you can work on brain patterns, maybe you can cure the problem, which is what he tries to do. But of course, then it gets so complicated, it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely crazy. You have to sort of, it's all to do with emotions in the end, which is going back to Chinese philosophy, isn't it? Where everything comes from an emotion. So I did, sorry.
Sorry, what would you suggest we have for a healthy immune system? What would you suggest we take?
Well, I mean, for the immune system, I don't think there is one simple answer. I think it's a combination of factors. So, in the first place, there are definite things that help the immune system. But I haven't found people with girls, usually with ME, that suddenly their lives can't, and they can't get out of bed. It's awful. And there doesn't seem to be one simple thing that you can do. I mean, I treated one girl, and she was on thyroxine, and they assured her that she'd be on thyroxine for life. No way she's coming off that. And they said, get used to the idea. You're not going to be a teacher. Again, you're not going to have children, etc. And I was treating her, and funny enough, I'm at number 10 Harley Street in London, and this woman's about number something or another. So she was going from one to the other, and in the end, she said that when she went to see the specialist about thyroxine, etc., all she did was ask questions about what I was doing, because thyroxine was normalising. Then she was off it. She's now got 2 kids, went back to teaching, married. So it wasn't right sort of prognosis at all. But then I don't blame them for that, because that's what they find, that's what they're used to. I mean, I'm not criticising, but that was an immune system thing, and there was no one thing that you could do. And you meet people that their diets are so good. I think, gosh, if I ate like that, that'd be brilliant. You know, they're eating a wonderful diet, and they exercise a lot, and their immune system is very, very shifty and flaky, and gets them into all sorts of difficulties. But then again, you sort of look at it, and quite a few people that I talk to sort of say, like people with ME will say, oh, one good thing, I haven't had a cold for 6 years. And then, oh, that's not good. It's not at all good. And when they do get a cold, I know they're getting better. Because the body won't have a cold unless it can, unless it's strong enough to get it. Unless the immune system's strong enough, it won't take one. Because it's a choice. It's a healing process. It's not a disease. Flu's a disease, sure. But common cold isn't. With a common cold, you support it. You don't go and take Lemsip or something and try and stop it all. No. Support it. And if there's loads and loads of stuff coming out of your body, you know, you're really snotty and runny nose, brilliant. It's an energy efficient way of the body chucking it out. What it's done is it said, I'll have the cold virus, I can kill that in 3 days. And that will inflame all the passageways. Right, now I kill it, so cold virus is gone. You've got all the inflamed passageways, so the body's going, oh no, I'm coughing up stuff, chucking stuff out. But to the body, that's energy efficient. There are other ways that it could have dealt with the problem, but it can't, because it hasn't got enough energy. But now the immune system's strong enough, so it accepts a cold. And whenever people get a cold that have got that sort of immune depressed thing going on, I always know they're going to get better. And they're always disappointed, because they haven't had one for 5 years and they think that's wonderful. No, it's not. It's not at all wonderful. So things aren't always the way they look. I can see you're looking very doubtful. But I believe it.
Well done.
David, you've given us a number of examples from your own experience.
Yeah.
How much is all this backed up by clinical trials from?
I'm not sure in Germany what they've done in clinical trials with things like their approach to cancer. I don't know. In this country, I don't think anybody's done any clinical trials. There's no real interest in it. It's, I mean, even that doctor that came up with it's a bit like an ETOP jag, and you put the person in it, and then you increase the atmospheres and put a little extra oxygen in. I found it was shrinking tumours dramatically, and his idea was to shrink them a lot before they go for an operation. And he spent all the money on it, and he got no backing at all from anyone, not from government, drug companies. So he just went bust. So they're not interested in clinical trials unless it's clinical trials for what their sort of main agenda is. But they don't do them with other stuff. You won't get the interest there. I mean, I tried with, well, I did one. I did a clinical trial. I took 10 people, all with anaphylaxis, and I treated them all. I had them blood tested before and afterwards, and then that was the result. And one doctor who specialises in allergies, who's retired now, he said to me, oh, well done, you're Jesus then. That was it. No interest at all in looking any further. So I don't know what you do. Though, have you ever heard of Etzardo? He is the Europe's only professor of natural medicine.
Was?
What is he now?
Chief mischief maker?
Oh yeah, he always was. Yeah, no, he always was. But he emailed me and said, this bears further investigation. I'd like to do a double-blind trial of 100 people, 50 in each group, 50 had a placebo and 50. And so I said, oh yeah, okay, so it's got to be done here at Exeter University. So I said, yeah, okay. And he said, and I want you to put me in funds of 100,000.
So I can do that.
100,000.
He give you.
No, my dear, I give you.
Oh, you give him.
He would set the protocol, someone else would do the rationale. And another doctor that I knew said to me, for God's sake, don't do that. I said, okay, don't worry about that. He said, don't do it. He said, I've done that. He said, I've got the t-shirt. Honestly, he said, they'll rip you off. He said, if it works, they'll say, but it only works in this room. And it only works, so on and so forth. So we can't possibly say this is for widespread use. It needs further investigation. He said, now go on for cost you $1 million. Because it has to be on that bench, and it has to be in that room, and it mustn't be with anything you like to think of. It mustn't have electrolytes on, whatever, to discredit it. So, but obviously I wasn't going to do it, 100,000, come on. But yeah, I mean the immune system, well, all the good things. Vitamin C, green vegetables, deep breathing. Deep breathing is number one in my view. I mean, if you think of certain cultures like the Tibetan lamas and people like that, and what they achieve through deep breathing is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, they can actually turn the body weight down so the heart's beating about 4 times a minute. So that they're just not there, really. It's quite amazing. And they just do this breathing. Nothing, I don't take any hallucinatory things or anything like that. Just breathing. And that's all they do. I think it's quite remarkable. And I heard of a story of a couple that were with a Sherpa, and they're going through the Himalayas, and they got caught in a terrible blizzard. And he found a cave to give them some shelter. Well, this is the incredible thing. I know you're not going to believe this, but the Sherpa then took his clothes off, took their wet blankets, laid outside, and raised his body temperature by deep breathing, and dried the blankets.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm assured that's true. I know it sounds ridiculous. Don't try it. Yes, yeah. Get more mature, please. But yeah, I think that's number one. And I mean, I see all these people that are running, jogging around the place. Absolutely crazy. They're jogging on surfaces we were never designed even to walk on. You know, when we were built and designed, there was nothing. And it was up and down, uphill, it was moving. There were no carpets, no flat roads, no pavements, nothing. And that's the way the body's designed. That's what it responds to. It doesn't respond well to pounding up and down on concrete. It's absolutely crazy. Or going down the gym. That's something that really amazes me, especially with guys. They get ill, and it's, go down the gym and use all my energy on some machines. Okay? When the body's going, hang on, I need the energy to get better. No, I'm having it. It's madness. Absolutely crazy. It's not logical, is it, to burn off your energy down the gym thinking that you're doing yourself good when the body's trying to heal and it needs the energy. It's really easy. It's quite simple. But that's guys. But then, because of the treatment that I do, it relies on a muscle test whether the arm's strong or weak. So sometimes I get guys that go down the gym for an hour and a half and they're ready for me, you know? And it's quite amazing. They're like a baby, it goes, jump. Yeah, it's quite good fun. And if anybody wants to know whether they've got an incumbent Coxsackie virus in the thymus, I bought a bench and I bought a sample, and I can test it if you want, so that you know. And if you don't want to know, I won't put the bench on. So, is there anything else anybody wanted to ask me, or quiz me on, or criticise me on?
I'm just thinking about so much about sugar right now, and I just wondered what's the link? You talk about the cancer grabbing the insulin. Because it's being deprived of the thing that it's sucking up all the time. It's taking anything that's going. I mean, it's not discriminatory. Yeah, so. There's not a strong link between it.
Sorry?
Is there a strong link? There's not a strong link between a high sugar diet.
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Okay.
Oh, well, I mean, a high sugar diet and cancer. I mean, you're feeding it. Right? Well, you see, the thing is, it doesn't work the same as normal cells. And something that I've found, you see, a cancer thing, a tumour is irregular in shape. It doesn't have any defined shape, doesn't need to. And also, it's very, very inefficient. So it's using glucose, but it's using glucose in a very inefficient way. And what happens is, it denies the body. That's how you get people with cachexia, you know, they look so ghastly. Because the tumour cells are grabbing everything, getting all the glucose, and very inefficient indeed. And then they also do all sorts of things to keep the white cells away. That's what all the fluid's about. Sometimes people get, you know, it's to protect themselves. They can't protect themselves against oxygen because they need a blood supply, which is why it works so well. It really does.
Are there any specific foods that you would come across as a...
Well, that are anti.
Well, the reason I ask that is our son, I don't know if he was in Japan,
Yeah.
he had heard that sea cucumber,
Yes. Yeah, I've heard that.
he caught one.
Yeah, it's not a vegetable, is it?
No, it's not.
No.
And he boiled it up and he got a recipe from the Japanese
Yeah, they eat it,
lady.
yeah.
And he said it was so disgusting.
I bet,
That
yeah.
he vomited and had diarrhea.
Oh, no. Oh, dear.
He said that at least the cancer cells would be dead.
Well, probably, yeah. Yeah, it didn't sound too helpful to stick to anything. No, I know. Well, there's all sorts of things that, I mean, there must be masses of stuff. I mean, mankind has survived for God knows how long. I mean, who knows how long. I mean, there's one interesting thing that separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom, and everybody thinks we're brave. But do you know what I think it is? Have you noticed apes, monkeys, how they're like this? Do a good impression. They're like this all the time. Yeah, and then they have to put their hands down because their legs get weak and they ache. But it's because they don't have one particular muscle, and it's here, and it's called TFL, tetrafacial lata. It sends down a sinew, down the iliotibial tract, and it locks them in. So now I can stand there, I'm not using any energy, but a monkey can't, because it doesn't have TFL. And if we didn't have TFL, we couldn't have carried loads, we couldn't have done all the things that have helped us develop, and our brains developed by using our hands, etc. And it's all, I think, because of TFL. There you go, it's my theory.
It could have been just a mutation.
Sorry?
It could have been just a mutation.
Yeah, I don't know how, do you? I don't really see how that works. It's almost like a God thing, you know? Right, we'll give those apes TFL. I can't see it just happening somehow, because if it just happens, then all those monkeys, some of them have been probably on the planet longer than us, they'd all have TFL by now, wouldn't they? Because it's a natural consequence. And it's not a natural not an automatic consequence. It's a deliberate selection. From where, who knows? But it's a deliberate selection. I think it's fascinating that is the main difference between us. And I know that has knock-on consequences, and then we're very different. We wouldn't want to fly in a jet, but, you know, but maybe if they had TFL, they would be. Well, if they'd had it long enough, don't know. So there you go. I don't think there's anything else I can tell you. You've got the picture, haven't you?
Where do you run your business from?
Oh, I'm just down the road here.
You're in Leatherhead.
Yeah, yeah.
And your book is not expensive.
No, it's not. No,
And
my
you
book
can
is
get it
not
on Kindle.
expensive. Oh, you get it on Kindle. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, very, very.
Yes, I've read it as well.
and it was good.
Eh?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. That's right, my TFL's playing up.
Oh.
So, if there's something else you want to know, and I know it's sunny and you want to go.
No, we're on. You know this business. Can you
Oh, yeah.
explain that just a little bit?
I can.
Would
Right.
you?
Yes. Now, what happens is it's a way of communicating with the body, and why it's so brilliant is the body can't lie. So it always has to tell you the truth. And what happens is, you see, if I think of Parkinson's, if I want to go like that, then all the muscles that push that forward have to be working, but all the muscles that pull it back mustn't be working. So therefore there's an area of the brain called the substantia nigra, and what it does is it switches off these muscles and only allows those muscles to work. So when you're holding your arm to your side and it's tested, if the body wants to give you a response, it switches off the muscles that are holding it in, and it flies out.
So what's the trigger?
Well, the trigger is the question. You see what I mean? I'm happy to demonstrate it. I brought a bench, sorry.
Can I just say something? I have seen in a course I was doing an experiment where a man was asked to leave the room. He'd been asked, do you smoke? He didn't smoke. And when he came back in, he was muscle tested and had, really tough bloke. And he could hold his arm tight. Without his seeing, a cigarette was held behind his back. He could not resist. His arm was totally weak, and he didn't know that the cigarette was behind his back.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the secret of it is for the person not to know what they're being tested for, because then there's no confusion. I mean, you put something in their hand, for example, but you don't say that's peanut, which would be a homeopathic representation, not peanut. And then you test, so they don't know what you're testing. So it can't be overridden because it works on the subconscious. You can talk to any area of the body. I mean, it's quite amazing actually, and it just works, and it's so reliable because I've had people, and I've treated them for their allergy, and the hay fever's gone, and this little boy's hay fever went. He was riding his pony without rashes from the horse stander, and I was convinced that his hazelnut allergy had gone as well, but I wasn't going to turn him to eat one of those. But he was riding his pony, and he wasn't getting hay fever in the pollen season. And they were leaving the country, so they want to be sure, so they're going to go for a skin prick test. So they had the skin prick test, and they said, oh yes, no, he's still allergic to pollens. And she said, well, no, he's not. No, he doesn't get hay fever. Oh, no, but he's definitely allergic to his horse. No, he's not. Oh, he's definitely allergic to hazelnuts, so wouldn't she go up? It's so unreliable. It's so disappointing. And the blood tests are just as bad, because in the end I spoke to the guy in the lab that was doing the blood tests when I used to use them. And I said, what's going on here? And he said, oh no, if that's a 3, goes to 0 to 6, the IgE, if that's a 3, that's really a danger level. I said, but the guy's eating peanuts. I told him not to, but he is, in confectionery. He said, oh, well, can I say to you then that this is a dark art? Oh, thanks. Like, you can't rely on it at all. So there is no reliable way of testing so that I know when I've treated someone, I can prove to them that they don't have an allergy. If it's something that's so dangerous, I don't want to take anyway. So what I do say is, okay, you're not allergic to peanuts, doesn't make them good food, continue to avoid them, but if by accident you come across them, the sword of Damocles is no longer up there. And it definitely works. I mean, I had a phone call, it was about 10:15 at night, I'm on holiday. And this guy treated for peanut allergy about 3 years previously, or 4 years previously. And he'd been round his girlfriends and eating a bit of cake, and he said, God, it tastes like peanut. Is it? And then her mum said, I don't know, because I didn't make the cake. Hang on. So she phoned the woman, and she said, yeah, I put peanuts in it. She said, oh my God. So they then drove home. Now this is a guy that after 5 or 6 minutes, with a little bit of peanut oil and a bit of lettuce that was passed across on the spoon, and he was on the floor going blue. So he phoned me, and I said, well, when did it happen? I thought he was going to say 2 minutes ago. And he said, it's about 3/4 of an hour now. Do you think I should phone the doctor? And I said, well, I do, yeah. So he phoned Thames Doc, and they looked up his file, and they said, well, how long is it? And he said, 45 minutes. So they said, can we call you back? He was completely gone. And they called him back after about another hour. They said, take some Piriton, go to bed, that'll help us sleep. And whatever treatment you had, it must have worked, otherwise you'd be dead, wouldn't you? How is that effective? Hello?
Do come in.
Yeah. Did you want a pub? Yeah. Well, I don't know which one. Yeah, it's one of them, yeah. I don't know if there's others going on.
The breast.
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah. Does anybody want to experience muscle testing that hasn't experienced it in the past or anything similar? If so, I'll put a bench on. Please yourself. No, it doesn't hurt. It's painless. Come on, somebody's got some courage.
I've experienced it, but I'd like to know about the Coxsackie virus.
Oh, okay.
If nobody else is getting I'll do it.
Don't worry, I'll struggle.
Ask.
Put it on the calf plate there.
What's happening? Oh, well done, yeah. Well, that should have been classic. It isn't always. It can be the Guillain-Barré virus, but it's usually that one, Coxsackie. Dun 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 dun. Oh, you can. Yeah. We haven't got a cushion where I should have thought of that. Never mind. Do you want to lay on there? Oh, that's horrible, isn't it? I've got to have something to put under it.
Do you want this coat?
Oh, that's nice. Is that better? Okay. Well, with this, all you do is you hold your arm into your side, just push in with that finger. That's all you need to do. And then I'll try and pull it away and stop me. No, stop me. That's it. And that's very strong. And then that's no or denial, you see. So that if I ask this question instantly, she goes, no, no, not true. But if I ask this, she should go, yes, that's true. Because what I said was, are you a man? And she said, no. Are you a woman? Yes. Because the body can't lie. Of course, I could get caught out sometimes.
You get into trouble asking questions like that.
So, do you want to know if this is Coxsackie or not?
Yes.
This is the thymus. So if you put your finger there. Well, you've got a strong immune system. You think that anything? No. That's negative. So the body's denying it. So you haven't. No, you should want to go further. Right, come on, who's next?
I'll do it. And I have a reason for it.
Oh, okay. How can you all be fearful of a simple thing like this? You're right.
Yeah.
Pushing that finger. Oh, you're strong. Okay. You put your finger there. expressions. I think it's there. Oh, yes, yeah. Take a deep breath. And out. Watch out all the time. Yeah. You hold that now. Hold it in time. There you go. Go on. It's that simple. There's an immune point on the head, you see. So I only have to put an input through it, an energy source, and it corrects.
I know I had that vaccine that was contaminated with that virus.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ah.
So part of the reason why.
Yeah, these things can happen.
Thank you.
Well, there you are. That's what I do. Yes, my dear.
Could you test them for that?
Yeah, of course. But it's using this system that I've been able, in some cases at least, to deny the cancer cells telomerase. And the interesting thing is, once they can't divide, they start to they want to exist, so they start to change. And I've noticed the tumour changes shape, and it becomes differentiated, and they're no longer true cancer cells. They become normal cells, so that they can live, because they want to live with the oxygen, and they want to live with the Krebs cycle and all that stuff. You know, the energy. And they actually change. And I've noticed it quite a bit. Women have sort of emailed me and said, oh, I'm doing all this, and it's got bigger, but it's rounder. I say, is it softer? Yeah. Oh, it's becoming a normal cell. So it wants to exist. So to exist in the new environment. You see, cancer's only there because it can be. There's no other reason. If it can't be, if the area is healthy, it wouldn't have been there in the first place. So if the area now becomes healthy, and let me point out, if you're someone that wears underwear bras, you're asking for trouble. Because lymphatic drainage occurs through muscular contraction. It's not pumped by the heart. I'm sure you know that. And if you look up your anatomy books and just have a look at how many lymph nodes there are around here, God, there's thousands. And they all drain down. The major chain of lymph comes down to here, to the solar plexus. So this is the other thing. When you're doing diaphragmatic breathing, because you crunch it up, you close all the lymph nodes. And then when you take an intake of breath through an open mouth, they snap open. And then you breathe, you hold it, allow them to fill up, count 12, and then you breathe out, crunch it all down, and they close again. And because there are valves all the way along, and the lymph is getting pushed along out the body, so you're draining the breast tissue, but it's not easy for the body to do that if it's got two metal areas stuck underneath here. It's not at all easy. And if on top of that, then we use antiperspirants, which is the body's huge mechanism for getting rid of rubbish. And actually, I believe that we shouldn't shave our underarm hair either, because I am sure that I've had conversations with the body. It stimulates all sorts of things in the body. And I don't think they were put there to shave off. But it's not a popular theory. No, push that way. That's nice. Hold on to that, please. Push it. No, I don't think so. Can you put your finger there? Just test the integrity of the immune system. Well, it's not that bad, but it's not that good, either.
Right.
Does that make sense? No. Kind of. Yeah, I think that's something else. Yeah, it is. Do you chew on the right or on the left?
Not sure, but I've just actually had a mercury filling removed, and I've got a temporary filling in just for a couple of.
There's something going on.
So that's maybe what you're picking up.
Yeah, it's moved the headphones around. Yeah, that's not good news.
And I was really anxious about it.
Yeah.
Having it removed.
Oh, I hate it.
Plus, I've got to have more mercury fillings out.
Are you?
Eventually, yes, over a period of time.
Okay. I mean, it's a funny thing, but whenever I test the body for amalgam, it always says I don't care. And yet, people I know that spent about £10,000 having everything taken out and white ones put in, they look brilliant. When I test the body and it's, oh, I hate it, hate the fixative they use. So they're worse off. I know, it doesn't sound right, does it? There you go. Can you say you did, so you were diving?
Yeah, apart from I had a slight problem with this shoulder.
Oh, do you? What's going on?
It's quite a long time ago. I had kind of frozen shoulders, and this one is still recovering. I mean, it's a few years ago. Yeah.
Oh, horrible. We know all about that, don't we?
Yeah. But I had lots of stressful things going on as well.
Oh, right, yeah. Emotional stuff. Yeah. Well, I mean, this. See, the reason this is important is that if we say always chew on the right, for example, and this is a very powerful muscle, it goes from here to here to here, and for its size, the most powerful muscle in the body. And there are 26 bones in the head, and they all move around slowly. And there's one bone that goes underneath the brain called the sphenoid, and the sphenoid has a tiny hole in it, and the tiny hole has notch, really, got to call it, has the anterior pituitary gland sitting in it. And if the sphenoid, which articulates here and here and hinges at the back, moves, it puts pressure on the anterior pituitary gland. Now that immediately alters things. And it alters things like thyroid, and it alters adrenals, and progesterone, and estrogen. So it's very important for those balances for breast health as well. So I always check that. And this sweet girl is down. Come and have a look if you want. You'll see exactly what I mean. Is that right?
I wish I could see what you were.
Can you see how my right finger is lower down than my left one? I know you ladies, you're going to say which one's the right one, aren't you? Right.
But you mean lower down on here?
Yeah. Yeah, you see it should be there. It's down there. Yeah. That means that her sphenoid is now dipped. That means that other things in the body will go along, like estrogen, progesterone, thyroxine, epinephrine, and testosterone.
Fucking us all.
And it's not scary, it's simple.
They must have been changed for a while.
Hey?
They must have also been changed for a while.
Yeah. And do you want me to put it back in position?
Please.
You won't hurt.
Are you meaning that when I next have another filling taken out, that it will throw it out again?
Well, I can't for sure,
No.
but I'll ask.
Oh, thank you.
No, it won't. Do you want me to do it for you?
Oh, thank you.
Take a deep breath. And down. Now you mustn't move your mouth for a couple of minutes. See, the great thing about this treatment is the body does it all, you don't do anything. So I've put the impulse in, now the body is going to move all the bones back. I hope. But it's interesting, when I was at the Royal Free doing pro-section, you know, bits of body and that sort of thing, they had this brilliant skull there. And I was having a look at it, and I said to this surgeon, I said, oh, look at that, that's the sphenoid and the way it sits in. I said, we adjust that, chiropractors. He said, you can't. He said, it doesn't move, look. I said, well, it does on living people. Oh, does it? I hadn't thought of that. I still don't know how this works. I don't know how, by pricking the head on the insertion of the muscle, the body then puts 26 bones back. And quite often the person doesn't even feel it happen. Some do, they feel a buzz, or some people say, oh, trickling water, energies, but it doesn't take all that long usually. How long was that? 2 minutes? It's back. Do you want to look?
Yeah.
Come on, then. It's back. That means. Sorry. Yeah. Is that uncomfortable?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
A little bit,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah. It is.
Yeah, right. It's only pain.
Yeah.
Do you want to sit up? Because that affects the neck. That affects the neck, and then that affects the shoulders.
Ouch.
I know. Sorry.
That's okay.
It's only pain. Put your hand out to the left. Right. Does that one go up or right? Or that's the tricky
How
one.
far do you want it to go?
Up to your head.
Oh, right.
No. Like that. Straight up.
Oh, I can't go
No,
there.
okay. And this one? Okay.
Oh, well.
No, you can't turn your hand now. There's no cheating. Wow, that's shocking, isn't it? Just close your eyes. Okay. You just turn around that like that. Okay. Just put it down. Okay. You've got your eyes closed.
Yeah.
Okay. Put your arm out to the side. And go up. I know it's
Oh, dear.
frozen shoulders, very uncomfortable, isn't it?
It's
You're right.
greatly improved. That's what it was.
Yeah, we'll get it there in a minute. Can I have your wrist? Later on, go. Okay. Is that the point? In the back?
Yeah.
Okay. Just take a deep breath. In. Slowly breathe out. Okay. Just raise your arm level. Don't try and go up. Okay. If we get the energy coming in that side and going out that side, leave that for a minute, and then you should be able to put your arm up. You should be able to. If you can't, it's what's known as failure.
Now.
Yeah.
Oh.
See that deep breathing, the energy. And you think it's one of the most brilliant things you can do, and it's free.
Actually, I'm trying to try to persuade my sister sometimes to investigate. She's had this little mystery illness.
Oh, is she?
But she lives in about 150 miles north of here. I know that people
Yeah,
sometimes, I know you're trained
there's people in Essex,
in Cambridgeshire.
Cambridge, Suffolk. There are a couple in Scotland, but it's a bit too far, isn't it? Can you put your arm out to the side, like so, and just go up? Keep going. Come on, it'll go. Okay?
Yeah. It's uncomfortable at the very last.
Yeah, it will be, yeah. Yeah, a bit more of that though, and it'll be alright. A bit more pain.
Come to my clinic.
Yeah, come and get beaten up. You okay now?
Yes, yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, it's nothing good.
Thank you.
Okay, so anybody that wants to try it, fine. I like your style.
No pain, no gain.
That's it, yeah. I've got it. A guy I used to go and see, the osteopath, terrible. I just had a wonderful holiday. And I could feel it tightening up. And when I got home, I couldn't get out of the car. So I phoned him and he said, well, you better come round my house because I'm going on holiday. So I went round there and I couldn't get out of the car. I'm using every bit of stealth, trying to get it back. And eventually I did. And oh boy, he put his thumb, there's a bone here, the great trochanter, goes into the acetabulum where it fits in. And he put his thumb in there And my leg was going like this, like a fish that's just been landed where it was on the nerve. Boy, it was fantastic afterwards. Absolutely amazing. Sorry, what happened?
I was just saying, you came to you when you had Paperback.
Oh yes, that's right, yeah. I wasn't that bad, was I? I wasn't. Okay. Well, I don't know if there's anything else I can tell you really. Oh, there's one other thing. Absolutely brilliant. Anything up here, including the breasts, hot mustard foot baths. Fantastic.
Sorry, what was that?
Sorry, hot mustard foot baths.
Foot baths.
Yeah, all you do is you get a bowl big enough to put both feet in, hot water to come up to say the ankles, and hot enough to be a bit uncomfortable, but not hot enough to do any damage. And then you know those small tins of Coleman's mustard powder? Chuck one of those and stir it up, put your feet in. It's fantastic for people having asthma problems or chest problems.
It tingles.
It tingles, it does, yeah. What you do is you move your feet round, leave them in there until it starts to cool. The strange thing is, the water cools, the effect of the mustard tingles and bites them more, doesn't it? But, I mean, it really does work. I mean, when my granddaughter was about 2.5, 3 maybe, and she had really bad chest and cold, almost like it, and she hadn't really slept for about 3 or 4 days. And I filled the basin up with hot water and I put some mustard powder and I thought I'll only put a bit in because she thought, well, stood her in there. Anyway, yellow turns out to be her favourite colour, so she's going, more yellow! But she slept that night, all the way through, just through her mustard foot baths. Yeah, it's brilliant.
So it's for respiratory problems?
Yeah, respiratory problems in the head. It brings stuff down and takes it out through the kidneys. It's very effective. And if it's problems up here, like quins's, tonsils, stuff like that, what you use for that is wet salt wrap. Don't know whether you've ever heard of that. What you do is you get a small towel, flannel, or something like that, and you know that rubbish salt, the Saxo cooking salt that you never use anymore.
Yeah.
Get some of that, fill it on. This is wet. Roll it up, and it's cold. Put it round the neck and then you put a towel around and you sleep overnight with it. When you wake up in the morning it's sort of yellow and crusty, or it's drawn all the muck out through osmosis. Very effective. I had people do it who couldn't swallow. And the next morning when they went to the doctor, this particular woman, she said, I'm absolutely fine, I can talk, I can swallow. And she said, what I did was this wet salt wrap he told me to do. The doctor was actually thrilled. He said, I can tell you how that works. It's osmosis. Oh God, I didn't know that. I just knew it worked. Brilliant. So yeah, there's so many different things, aren't there, that you can. They're simple and they're cheap. If anything's expensive, be suspicious, because all the good things are cheap. More or less, except me, of course. No.
What about walking around the garden?
Oh yes. I forgot that one, didn't I? Thank you. Yeah, bare feet, particularly when the dew's on the grass, and you just walk round, hands over your head, and it's amazing. People that have had strokes recover far more quickly. People with dementia, things like that, improve rapidly, and yeah, it's quite amazing. Absolutely extraordinary. And the other thing is, though I haven't been able to try this, but I have suggested it to some people, and I don't know whether they're trying it or not. But you know those atomizers that go in toilets, you go in there and every now and again it goes, there's a sort of chemical smell. Well, you get one of those, and in it you put Melissa, essential oil of Melissa, and it sprays out all night when the person's in bed. And short-term memory is said to improve dramatically, and recognition, etc. It's almost like a cure for Alzheimer's.
Would it be the same if you put it on a tissue beside your bed or something?
No, and it doesn't work if you put it in a burner with water. It doesn't work. It has to be droplets in the air that the person breathes in. And there's that connection, isn't there? Why they snort cocaine up their nose, that there's that quick connection between the nose and the brain. But I'm sure it works. And they're all simple and they're all cheap. You know, I mean, I don't know how much the machine is that goes on the wall.
Probably expensive.
Yeah, but then if you've got a crowbar, you can get one. Who said that? Oh yeah, also Vic on the bottom of the feet. Oh, actually, no, I tell you what, the best one for that is garlic oil mixed with essential oil of eucalyptus on the soles of the feet, and you're breathing it out within no time at all. And that's brilliant, particularly for things like asthma, bronchitis. It's very good for anything that constricts the bronchi, the branches that go to the lungs. It's very good for that. Yeah, that's right. Well, I remember my grandmother using kale in poultices. It used to be slapped, they used to eat it up and slap it on her chest. I don't know whether it did any good, but she enjoyed it. Well, you never know with these things, do you? You just try it. But if it's simple, logical and cheap, it's probably good. If it's complicated and expensive, it's probably rubbish. Because the only reason it's expensive is because someone's made it complicated. And the only reason they've complicated it is so they can charge more for it.
Sounds like politicians.
Sorry?
Sounds like politicians.
Oh, that bunch, yeah, no. No, they shouldn't, don't they? Yeah. Right, I think that's...
Thank you very much.
Thank you.